Right. Here we go.
Season 2, Episode 2 of Cory and Cory marketing a WordPress product live and in your face. And for once,
Okay.
I'm going to be the one that remembers to stand up before you do.
Yep. I'll stand up here in a minute. Good idea.
On a strict schedule.
It's a good schedule.
So yeah, we're didn't catch up last week because of the holiday, and then this week we are post Black Friday / Cyber Monday. So as you mentioned last week, we launched in October, and we saw our first few sales with an intro rate, but it was only a few sales, and so I was secretly, not so secretly, holding my breath, hoping that people were holding their breaths for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and I think that proved to be true. So we wound up, by yesterday, we got a few dozen sales, which is what I had hoped to get during the launch. And so for all of you watching the 32 episodes, the one takeaway is don't launch a month before Black Friday, because you will not get sales until Black Friday, which is fine. Like, I don't blame anybody for that. And in fact, it worked out fine. We had our first few customers work out some of the kinks, and then now we've got a few dozen customers, and we've taken a big step ahead, which is awesome. So overall, yeah, we listed on a couple of dozen Black Friday listing sites, saw almost no traffic from them. And I noticed a bunch of other people kind of doing a postmortem on Twitter, who also said the same thing. However, it seems like Black Friday still is successful as a thing to do. We saw a bump. Other people were talking about how, some bigger or smaller than that last year, but they still saw a bump in sales. But that a lot of the traffic was quote unquote organic. So I'm actually wondering, because I was talking to somebody, there's a guy who runs a Black Friday list site that we were on. And so he hit me up and he said, fingers crossed, did you see any traffic? I said, looking at analytics, you were one of the two out of the 25 where I saw literally one click through. But unfortunately, until yesterday, we were not set up to track actual purchases. So that click through might have led to a sale. I don't know. But also, I have a feeling that, because this is, an easy way to learn from this stuff is to watch your own behavior. And I was all over Black Friday sales, buying software for us and for clients and stuff like that. And so frequently I would see something on a list and then think of it later to check in with. And so I have a feeling that there's at least some portion of traffic that's people seeing it on these listing sites and then searching for it later, rather than opening tabs and bookmarking it or whatever. And then it's all backlinks and stuff like that. So I spent probably a couple of hours getting us listed on all those sites. If it led to a sale, okay. If it didn't, we still got more traffic and more backlinks and stuff like that. So I see some benefit, but it wasn't a clear winner. And then I've also been more active in Facebook groups, and that's actually been where I've seen most of our traffic is coming from Facebook. And so anecdotally, it's our Facebook page is nothing to look at, and I'm sure isn't getting any traffic. So it's got to be me talking about it in various Facebook groups.
Yeah, I heard some of that about, or saw some of that about the Black Friday lists and stuff. Um, for sure, good for backlinks, like you said. Um, it goes back to my thing is like we build tie themes on email, and
Hmm,
that's the direct thing. And I get more social things out there, but you still go like back to the base of direct marketing.
for sure.
Um, it's and I think there's some combinations to that too. It's just like economically and in the world, it doesn't feel super hot right now. Things are
Yep.
slowing down, and our industry is not immune to that.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. And so so I started all of this, or the joke I wanted to tell was from the OMG IMG Twitter account. I posted on Cyber Monday, today's the last day, because I tried to tweet at least once a day from the OMG IMG account, um, about either progress with the plugin or whatever. But during the sale, it was like at least once a day, like, hey, it is Black Friday, grab the sale. Hey, it's the weekend, grab the sale. Cyber Monday, last day to grab the sale price. And then of course the cheat is from my personal account to like it, read, quote it, blah blah blah. And from my personal account, I'm pretty active in not only sort of the WordPress tag circle corner of Twitter, but the build in public and indie hacker circle. Like I've been active in that for a year or two now, and I've gotten a lot of value out of it. Um, but so I, instead of just promoting the plugin again from my personal account, I said, since it's the last day, I said, crap, tomorrow now Cory and I have to figure out how to actually market the damn thing. And that got more likes than any other tweet. Because we and every other team, you know, person launching or running a WordPress plugin has to, yeah. Once the obvious things like Black Friday is over, now what?
mhm.
So sort of what I wanted to talk about today, like I think couple of weeks ago we started talking about, essentially I viewed it as an exercise, though I'm not, though I it the exercise of essentially planning a WordCamp talk, which is, I think we should look into doing. I think we should look into filming it, like you talked about. I think, but I viewed it as kind of an exercise of like, if we summarize this content, then I also think, based on what you just said a second ago, we have not a lot of people, again, a few dozen emails on our mailing list, and
Mhm.
direct marketing at iThemes was your go-to.
Mhm.
Um, we need to figure out how to get people onto our mailing list.
Yep.
And the common practice these days is some sort of lead gen. So if we wound up doing a video, doing a talk, and then we could either share that in exchange for an email address, or use a service or a person to distill it down into some sort of ebook in exchange for an email address, like to at least put that on the website.
Ugh.
And or I had a lot of success with, I think I did it with Kanban, but I definitely did it with social link pages, where I took that content and broke it into basically like a 7-day email course. Um, today we'll teach you about what Open Graph is. Tomorrow we'll teach you about how you should use Open Graph. The third day we'll talk about optimizing images for Open Graph, so that it's in bite-sized chunks. I always like those.
Mhm.
And that also gets people engaging with us via email.
So the way kind of the reason why I mentioned all that, the like talk is, I think putting it in conceptually, hey, you were giving a talk to a WordCamp, put you in the mindset of the audience and everything.
Totally.
In practice, I think the first one should be live webinar recorded. We can take that, put the slides in a behind the ebook or email, transcript if we wanted, but like break that down into something that could be the lead magnet.
Yeah.
I was trying to find the outline. Thought I worked on the outline last time.
Yeah, we had a Google Doc going.
Oh, it was Google Doc. There it is. But I think that, and then we can break that big piece of content into social shares, things like that.
Dear Mr. ChatGPT, take this transcript and generate 50 tweets for us.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So
Can you hear by the way, can you hear the squeaking behind me? No. Okay, good. The our newest dog has figured out to take his favorite squeak ball and bring it up to the top of the stairs and then bounce it down the stairs. So every once in a while, you just hear this like boink, 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 boink. It sounds like a video game or something.
that's pretty smart.
It is. He's proving to be very smart.
Um,
Um,
so I think that would be helpful because that could become base content for, I
a
mean,
lot of
even if we
things.
put the talk on one of the main navigation items on the site, full video here, maybe there's sections, transcript, here's the slide download, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I like doing that because I think it puts our whole thoughts out there. We're educating people too. Because I think what we talked about is like the opportunity with open graph images. Um, I'm seeing more and more just when I Google myself, those little favicons and stuff like that. And up until now, I haven't really paid attention to those much.
Right.
But, you know, but you figured all that out. Like we were talking about some of the magazines and newspapers and stuff that are out there.
Yep. Yep. I'm very smart. Um, yeah, well, and it's been a hell of an education. Like we started talking about this and even as we were talking about it, over the last year, we like, oh, like you said, like you start to pay attention to it. Like it's now become our niche. And so we kind of naturally become experts on it. And as we're walking through the world, largely on the internet, in this context, we're like just noticing little things. And it's like, I don't know if you remember, but a few calls ago, I discovered recently that there's like Pinterest has its own version of open graph schema type stuff. And it's like, I think, obviously Pinterest is not Google, but it's something that we will look at incorporating or look at addressing down the road. So it's, we're going to keep finding this stuff. But before we get into anything specific, I think one of the things that I wanted to talk about was so one of the things that I struggle with is time, right? Like things generally are in front of me, and so they're now or not now, or the other way around. I think of things in terms of now or not now with the way my brain works. And so I struggle with time. And so one of the things that I struggled with Kanban and with social link pages was the concept of campaigns and then also channels. And so the talk that we're describing, I think, is great, gives us a big body of content to draw from. But I want to pause and stay at the 10,000 foot level for a minute and talk about, like, we want to produce a video that leads to content that we consistently push out on Twitter because we have some engagement. And I think because you and I have followers on Twitter, it has led to, like, I'm slowly warming up the OMG Twitter account. I'm seeing I'm having it follow some of the same people that I follow because I'm mentioning on my account and then they get pulled into a thread. So then OMG gets flagged. So then you know what I mean? And so I think that Twitter, and because the WordPress ecosystem I find is still pretty active, at least my corner of it on WordPress. I think these are WordPress insiders, but as we've talked about, that's where we start. Like that's our community. So obviously we start with the low hanging fruit, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we want consistent content for Twitter. I don't. I want to automate pushing content to Facebook and Instagram, but I don't ever expect to really see much content or see much engagement there.
It's
So I
not
guess
like it
what I'm
was 5 years
so it,
ago.
right. Um, and again, I think it's a neat place to make sure we're pushing, especially images that we're creating, because they are examples and we can kind of use it as a photo gallery. But I don't expect many people to interact with it, follow it, engage with it. But so I guess what I'm trying to just talk through out loud right now is like at least initially, what channels do we want to hit
Mm-hmm.
consistently, and then do we want to talk about using the term campaign loosely, but making sure that we are, over time generating content for those channels that we think are most important.
Um, so if we go through the channels, you know, Google, I don't know. I can't remember if you mentioned Facebook.
I
Um,
did Facebook and Instagram. I think, like, again, we'll just like, as we're publishing articles or we're publishing anything, we will push to those channels. Like I tend to I describe it like that because I tend to push content to Buffer and then just have Buffer distribute content. But I like to automate that stuff because I want to make sure those channels look active. So if somebody stumbles across it, it looks decent, but I don't expect to pay any human attention to it. Whereas initially, it makes sense to me to pay human attention to Twitter, for example, because I see an active user base there.
so I got channels, and then I think about audiences. And really, we've been kind of going off the agency, like I do web work for other people. Um, Setting up a site, making sure it's all ready to go for a business or organization. This is part of that, you know, this is part of that setup. We talked about kind of the content creator, aka publishers.
Yeah, in my mind. So one of the things that I didn't break down for you, um, is we sold quite a few of the lifetime deals over Black Friday. Um, which, I mean, I know a lot of people collect lifetime deals or collect, the bulk license. So we had it for, you get 100 sites. You can put the plugin on 100 sites and, support for a year, but updates forever. And so I know that at least some portion of people will buy it just to buy it, but it's not like we have it at essentially $700, and um, people were buying, and it was 50% off. So it's a good deal, but it's still $350. Um, so it's not a small investment. And so I still take that as um, a lot of probably half of the people who have bought, that might be generous.
Yeah, If you want, let's go through that list and just make some observations.
Reports.
Because you know what? So I think a subset
There
of
we
the
go.
agencies I thought about was the people that do care package maintenance, things like that. And I thought about Main WP. I got to meet Dennis at WordCamp US and blanking on his name, but I know he does marketing for him. But they're doing a web care survey, and the talk thing might be a really good thing that we could talk to Main WP about.
So a third of our purchases were lifetime. And the
Okay.
other 2/3, full stop, were website. Nobody bought the middle tier. And we don't have a lot of sales. Like I said, a few dozen. So it's a small data set, but it is interesting that literally not one person bought the agency so-called plan.
I bet all your lifetime were agency types.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I wanted to bring this up, right? So
Yeah.
because you started to bring up so talking about essentially there, I brought up two variables, you brought up the third. Channel, content ongoing, and who we're actually trying to talk to. So I'm seeing it as essentially 2/3 of the people who have purchased thus far bought for one or two sites. So what we're calling like the solo publisher, small team, whatever it might be, single site owner. And
Yeah.
then at least a third like really doubled down, because again, like $350 is not a small commitment, even though it's a great value.
Mm-hmm.
Are agencies or people who run lots and lots of sites. So
So
I think to me that I view that as a bit of confirmation, right? Like we're
confirmation.
chasing two groups and a split, you know.
So, so without revealing the actual email addresses, can you look at some of the email addresses and let's make some observations about them? Like they probably go back to agency websites or whatever kind of website. And like what I'm interested in seeing what patterns are there.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, there might be something there we go, oh yeah. So yep.
Agency. So Gmail, agency, consultant, agency, solutions, our work, agency,
Okay.
freelancer.
Okay. So can you give me a couple of those? I'll look them up and we'll make some observations together without revealing who the customers are.
Absolutely.
Um, but I think, well, my thesis before looking at these is I wonder if they're doing like SEO work. Oh yeah, I know her.
You can't just keep saying that, because then it just sounds like only our friends have bought.
That's true. Oh, I don't know her. Yeah. So yeah, I can make some good assumptions about this one. I mean, I've actually.
Right. Yeah, and there are a few people that I know as well.
Hey, this second one, that's great.
Right?
You know what site they just revealed, didn't you?
No. Send it to me.
Does that help? Well, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So so a few people we know, a few people we don't. Um, a few people, like a couple of bigger names, you know, in our WordPress ecosystem. Um, and the good part is I don't feel like there's nobody doing us favors, right? There's nobody buying it to like help us boost sales, or um, you know, I'll join your community just because kind of thing. Like they're I trust that they're actually going to use the tool.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So
yeah, that's and you. This is what you're walking us through right now is great. Like looking at our customers, seeing what kind of sites they have, who they are, we can maybe start to guess.
yeah. So the first two in that list, the observations I would make is technical, highly
Mm-hmm.
emphasizing technical, and wanting to make sure their packages are like well rounded, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Like probably going, oh, what are we doing for Open Graph? Are we doing, the set things we need to be doing, and wanting to check those boxes? That's great insight to me. It's like,
Right.
because like one of our next things is if you build websites, you might be missing this piece when you're delivering to the clients. And our plugin helps us, do that. So like, I like that angle from the technical is like the thing I was thinking about for the talk, going back to that's my anchor for a second, is like, what is Open Graph? What really is it? How, and then showing people like these spots, these things are Open Graph. Is your website or is your work, doing that, putting those images in the proper place and all that kind of stuff. But like, if we just went to that middle section, because like all these people that you mentioned, there's only one I really know, but like of the couple you sent, um, they get it. They're very
Right.
aware of what Open Graph is, but probably haven't thought about it as like it's helping them understand. I want to make sure and check that box. I want to make sure our sites are, and that's really good. Like we could go straight into that middle section because they already know
Mm-hmm.
first section. First section is for noobs, people kind of outside this agency audience. But even if we did this middle part, Cory, this middle part, which is like the opportunities with Open Graph, and I mean, obviously we've got a lot of those on our site, but if we put them in a slide deck kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
and shared that in a recording, the slide decks alone, where we're talking like what you could do with how you could do that. Like these people probably know they can find that code, put it in there, but they don't want to, they don't need to, they shouldn't do
Right.
that. So like, even if we said like, here's all the opportunities with Open Graph, that would speak to that audience. And there's a lead in. Are the websites you're building delivering to clients? Checking the Open Graph box, making the most of Open Graph. Here's these opportunities. So they can go, well, this brand's on Pinterest, uses Pinterest a lot of traffic. This brand is very Google. So this is Facebook. Like, well, those things can look fine here. Now, what we might find is like they want to cover the base, favicon, site, open general site graph stuff. That's fine and well. But then they can go, okay, well, if they're doing more, they can have more specialized posts. Like if a client is doing Facebook quite a bit, using Facebook a lot, like you probably want, some more custom stuff for those. And this makes it easy to do that.
And while you were talking, one of the things that I speculate, so we want, like you said, what our assumption here is that they're delivering a list of services, and so they are all and they're going to use OMG to check another box, and that parallels, like, in my mind down the road, I view us as a necessary install on all new sites, the same way that currently you install an SEO plugin on all new sites. Like, everybody, constantly there's tweets or posts asking, like, what are your go-to plugins? Meaning, every time you spin up a new site, what do you immediately install? Backups and, things like that. And so I imagine that exactly what you said a minute ago, of like, these are agencies, they are offering a suite of services. When they are with the perfect client, they are building out a site, but they are also going to already have installed for that client a Yoast or an all-in-one or RankMath to cover the Open Graph stuff, which we didn't. And then, but as we've talked about, they all handle images minimally. And so we are blowing that part way open. And so the idea being that alongside of a Yoast, an all-in-one, and a RankMath, you also want to install OMG, not only because we extend and expand how these other SEO plugins handle images, but as you just said, then it can take it a step further, where every post automatically has a Facebook image or something. And so that reminded me that in our talk, we talk about Open Graph, and then we went straight to images. And so I added a to-do list in our outline of, like, we need to talk about how, once we say Open Graph in general, here's how Open Graph is being handled by WordPress using these third party to WordPress core SEO plugins, and then getting, because as we've talked about, OMG will serve some basic Open Graph, but it's not an SEO suite. I don't want to compete in that space. So you still probably want an SEO plugin, unless it's if you're trying to be big and professional. If it's not just a hobby site, you probably want an SEO plugin, and then you also want OMG.
So I know we got 8 minutes. This helped a lot. That very little customer data just helped a ton. First people to put their money forward, and at least 2 of those I go, wow, I know what they do, and their work wants to be complete, and they're going to be looking for things they're missing always, because they want to deliver a complete thing. So, but this changed my mindset a little bit from me as the user. If I'm the user, you got to start explaining Open Graph. And you spent a year trying to educate me on it, right? So now I get it. Okay, these things, these show up here. You want to show up. This is how you do it. Okay. But to this audience, there's an angle here, which is, you said a couple of times, it's like checking the box, making sure you're doing the complete when you're delivering the work. And so it's almost like I'm just riffing on headlines, but it's like the things you're missing out with Open Graph for WordPress websites,
even if you think you know what you're doing,
and
you're
so
still probably missing a couple of things.
Yeah. They already know what Open Graph is. So we go in with that knowledge. They already know, they understand it has, impact. The things you're missing out on. And then we list all the channels, this spot here. And right there, I think even in the deal presentation, I think this could be a shorter thing for us to do. It could be even like 25 minutes or something. But the most important thing for me out of it is the slides.
Yeah.
Because then we can put that behind an email, we can share that out, all that kind of stuff. But and really that's a brochure. So who cares if we get their email or not? Like, let's put it in there. And the last slide on there needs to say, get this discount, get it. Okay. So there's where my mind's going, is like, let's do our first one. Because if we start here, this is where we should start, the technical audience. You already knew what Open Graph was. Most of these people obviously do, way more than me. So here's the spots. And the question after that is like, do your client, like, look at all the channels that that the examples. I think the screenshots you've done, on the product page is like, just show them. I'm a visual person, like, how this looks. So they go, oh, my client X gets a ton of traffic. Where does their traffic come from? But here's all the channels. And are you checking all these boxes? Because, yeah. So Slack's on there, Pinterest is on there, Facebook, all those, right?
Yep.
I don't even think we need to give them the code, because they already know they could figure that out.
Right.
These are highly technical people. And then the second, see, so like that alone, Cory, it's like, are you checking the Open Graph box for your clients? Are you missing out? That kind of thing.
Yep.
Here's the channels. Our plugin does all that for you. Last slide is discount.
Yep.
And I would give that away without an email. And the reason why is because we want that shared. We want to download it as much as possible, because really it's just showing them it's a brochure to buy, Yeah,
absolutely.
So
a little
here's
bit
my
of education question. And then a presentation of, here's the problem we solve.
So that's it. Like, here's the channels with examples. Each slide is a different channel. We go through all the channels so they can go straight to it. Whoa, hold on. My food blogger does Pinterest. The plugin does this for those, like a food blogger. We could put examples on, like, left side is picture of how it looks on Open Graph. Right side is the things you could do, they could do, and let them pick and go, well, shit, this is a plugin that does all that for me easily without code, and I can do the complete thing and give my clients more for really affordable price.
And they're going to go sell it to their clients. Like, that's the real advantage of an agency, is either they're buying it for their clients and using it, and or they're saying, because every salesman wants to be an expert. So they go in and they're having a conversation with their client, and the client's like, okay, well, we're a food blog, so we do a lot on Pinterest. And the salesman goes, oh, well, great. We've got a plugin that not only covers the basics for all of your images when they get sold, but very specifically, it will optimize the way you appear on Pinterest, and maybe even separate from the way you appear on other socials, because that's your most important channel. So we might even, talk about those, and that's, now I've caught up. That's why you're talking about those different emphasizing those different channels. And we could even come up with some good examples. I think there's a lot of, developers on Twitter. If you're running a food blog, you're probably taking advantage of Pinterest or Instagram, or both. If you are if your clients are influencers, essentially, younger audience, going to Instagram.
Corey, I don't think we even have to do the recorded thing, but we should. Yeah. But like, if we just get the slide deck out, let people download that, like are you missing out, something to the effect of, are you missing out on the Open Graph for your clients? Put the deck up. You already know what Open Graph is. Here's a link to an article back to the site if we want to talk more about it. That's like first slide, second slide. And then it's just all the channels. with examples with a little bit of text to go like, well, could a food blogger, create custom featured image, open graphic content, all that. And then the end what's the end? I think that's our first step. So next week, I think we need to work on the presentation.
Yeah.
And the great thing about it is we don't have to do it live or anything like that. I mean, record it and do a webinar.
Right.
That's our lead magnet.
Yep.
Let's just do that piece of content and say like, hey, are your clients missing out on all these? Are you missing out on all these things for the clients? Like, here's all the opportunity. We discovered this, show the little pictures where everything shows up. They have something they can send their clients if they want to. Maybe we'll do another version like that's behind an email is like, do you want an unlabeled version, white label version of this to send your clients? But really that's our deal. Start there with the people that understand it. They'll educate their clients and we can grow from that technical. I'm going to, every time I say agency now, I'm going to think technical.
Yep.
They like to check all the boxes. Accessibility.
Full service. Yeah. Full service agency.
If you're a full service
have that expertise.
And here's the thing. If you're a full service agency in, we'll say 2024, not doing this, you're missing out. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, so let's do that next week. Yeah, or if you start on there, whatever, we want to start on a shared doc. But I think all we have to do is like take the pictures of the screenshots, find examples. You've already done a lot of that work on the front page.
Right.
I don't even think we have to show the after. It's just like, listen, this spot, how does it look for your client? Go check.
Right. And I love the idea of either a wizard that they actually click through, or else they're going to be basically following these logic flow themselves, where it's like, if we list examples, if we're like Pinterest parentheses food blogger, or food blogger parentheses Pinterest, small business parentheses Facebook, everybody will pick up on one or the other. And I think I really immediately I'm drawn to having real world examples, not just if your client uses Pinterest, but food blogger as an example, Pinterest, small business, local business, Facebook, even if we're wrong. And even if they're like, well, they're not a food blog, they're a beer blog, but it's going to be an example that they're going to get more out of than going, it saves them having to take the time to go, oh, they're a food blog, so they're on Pinterest.
So we discovered that through those customer things, which is great. I think
that's easier to tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
Patricia is a food blogger, and so she is on Pinterest, and so benefits. All right, okay. I got to jump.
Thanks, man.